right, hook. Straight right, hook. Yeah, come around. Good afternoon, good day, good evening. This is Conrad from Grumpy Old Geezer Boxing. Great to see you. Today we're going to talk about the Philly shell. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one kind of guard after another, including the standard guard, Philly shell, high guard, the peekaboo, and all that. We're just going to talk about these and what could be, or maybe is not, right for you. That's where I'm coming from. So we're going to start with the Philly shell, which is kind of the most controversial one, and that's why I'm starting with it. I will say, probably, if you're new to boxing or if you're coming back to boxing, you should go back and work on just the standard guard. So you got a glove about at your cheek. You got this glove actually kind of the same height in front of you, maybe turned in like this. I like to have more weight on the back foot. We've talked about that. Your front foot either pointing kind of directly like at you right now or to a little bit of an angle, right? Depending on your coach, okay? That's a good guard. It allows you mobility, it allows you to move. It's a basic boxing stance. It's something everybody has to learn. Now, we'll get back into that later. I do highly recommend it though. Let's talk about the Philly shell. The reason I'm talking about it is because people ask about it, people think it's cool, they want to try it, etc. So I'm going to give you 5 reasons not to do it. And then we'll talk about some things that if you do want to do it, experiment with it to keep in mind, okay? First reason not to do it. If you're watching a YouTube video to learn the Philly shell, I don't care if you're watching me, if you're watching, Floyd Mayweather himself, you don't need to be doing the Philly shell. If you want to do the Philly shell, right, which to tell you the truth, I think sometimes should be called like the Detroit shell or the Michigan shell, because the guys that you think of, Floyd Mayweather, right, he learned from his family, who I understand learned from a guy out of Detroit. And James Toney, also out of Michigan, right? I can't think of any 2 guys that did it better than that, at least in recent memory, unless you want to go back in time and talk about some of the old legends. But if you are trying to learn from YouTube, you're going to probably get rocked. I mean, seriously rocked. The Philly shell is something that you need to be pretty advanced, but you need to have a trainer teaching you. And here's why. A lot of what you do in the Philly shell actually is kind of opposite to what you do just in standard boxing. So if you're learning boxing from a good coach, a bad coach, a great amateur coach, just your local physical trainer, and he's teaching you the basics, right? Philly shell is not about the basics, right? It's a lot of exceptions, and I'll give you a couple of examples of that. First of all, obviously there's the guard, right? Philly shell, you're not using the guard the way you would use the guard normally, because what you're doing, right, and if you're coming here, you probably know this, you're going to be catching punches, actually parrying with this backhand, okay. You're going to be blocking them with your shoulder, or actually kind of diverting their direction, right, with the shoulder. And you're also going to be, when you slip, you will see this, and it may sound controversial, you're not going to be slipping kind of the same way that you would in a normal guard. Because in a normal guard, as we talked about this, somebody throws a punch at you and you want to slip outside the punch. So let's say he's throwing a punch at you, you slip outside this way, you slip outside, both ways. When in a normal guard, right, you will, I'm not saying that you're going to do it 50% of the time one way, 50% of the other way, but if somebody throws a left at you, and if you turn, they throw a left, you slip outside of that oncoming left, right? Somebody throws the right straight down the pipe, well, it just in basics, you'll slip outside of that oncoming right. Now, in the Philly shell, a lot of times, to be honest, you might be parring, you might be catching, but the slips and the bobs, right, they're much more to one side, right? You can say, oh, well, that's not really true, blah, blah, blah. No, but they kind of are. You go watch James Toney, watch Floyd Mayweather, watch guys that just do, especially James Toney, who's just unbelievable at it. A lot of it's to the same side. I mean, he would slip, he might parry, or he might actually bob under to one side, right? But then when that right comes over, he's off to this side too, taking it off the shoulder, or even just completely getting under it. instead of, say, trying to get out here to throw that left hook. Now, he threw all kinds of punches, and he could punch from any angle, okay? But if you're not committing to learning the Philly shell all the time, what will happen to you, especially if you're new, is you'll start one thing, you'll do the other, and you'll get caught in between. You'll be like a deer in the headlights. Bam, you get it in the nose, okay? So that's one reason not to do it. Second reason not to do it, if you're going to do it, you better be quick. And then you got to be quick in a lot of ways. Now, first of all, if you're in the Philly shell and you're going to throw that jab, it's coming from below. Now, that's an advantage we're going to talk about. That can be a great advantage, but you need to have gotten where you can really get off a crisp jab and shoot it out there if you're going to get it from down here and get it up to his chin fast enough. Most beginners or newbies, or even guys that are maybe just messing around with it, a lot of them don't have that hand speed to use that jab, which can be a big advantage, right? Which we'll get back to. So that quickness is essential, right? Also, when people talk about the pull counter, so the right's coming over, you take it off the shoulder, or like Floyd Mayweather, sometimes he'll actually just kind of roll real far back, and then bam, he'll come back and just punish people with that right. It actually looks kind of easy the way he does it. Looks easy the way James Toney does it because they're phenomenal, right? But slipping or taking that one off the shoulder, rolling that off the shoulder and getting back that fast, man, you got to be quick. You see my whole body's got to be quick, okay? If you're new to boxing, or if you're not just a phenomenal athlete, it may be difficult for you to learn how to do that. I'm going to give you a trick to sort of help you in a few minutes. Another reason. Now, this is especially for guys that are getting older, but it's also for guys that are doing lots of weights, okay? Look at what you have to do in the Philly shell, okay? It is this turning and coming back, turning, coming back. A lot of times what you do, you can parry, catch it, but you got to get this hand up to take, because you might have a hook coming, and roll off that hook. Now, you need to have good flexibility, and I mean flexibility in your hips. One way, if you want to practice, is to line up, just have your arms down, and just see if you can take it off this shoulder, get around, take it off that shoulder. And then this isn't going to get you ready to fight. It's like a test. Now you see, I'm stiff. It's hard for me with my feet planted to do this and get around. It's not that natural. Now, obviously, when you're fighting and you roll it and you come around, you're going to move your knees and hips. But a lot of guys that lift weights and don't have a lot of natural flexibility, or you're getting older, man, again, probably not the move for you, okay? The other issue is, there are a lot of nuances to learn the Philly shell, and there are even different schools of the Philly shell. So, watching YouTube and trying to learn it, man, look, Floyd Mayweather, when you see him fighting, a lot of times he's fighting off with his stance his feet really sideways, okay? Now, he had a very specific approach to it, which is phenomenal, and you see him even get in the corner and he's leaning back. He's just taking stuff, getting back. It's just amazing. But that doesn't mean that's what you want to do, okay? And this is what I'm getting to, if you are a young athletic guy that can move, okay, well, once you get into the Philly shell, you get pretty stationary, okay? Now, I'm not saying you have to be stationary, and Floyd definitely, he moved all over the place, but a lot of times when he's moving and running, people accuse him of running a lot, he's not in the Philly shell at that point. He fights out of it for a time, maybe even he would rest out of it, and then his hands are back up a lot of times, and he's all over the place. So you can't start thinking, I'm just going to lock myself into that. And for a lot of young guys, I kind of don't know why they want to go down that road, especially if they are uber athletic and they can move. Okay, you got to use your advantages. Okay, the other issue is, if you are going to use it, it does pay to have a long reach. Now, James Toney didn't especially have a long reach, and especially once he started fighting at heavier weights, you'd say he really didn't have a long reach. But I mean, he was just a freaking master. Okay, so if you have a long reach, and Floyd Mayweather does have a long reach, man, he could get that jab way out there. In fact, he can lean forward and get the jab out there, which we've talked about, and bait and get back. Again, we're getting into, you have to be super athletic. But if you are super athletic, it might pay just to fight out of a regular stance even a high guard like Canelo, Virgil Ortiz, whatever, right? Okay, I think I've given you at least 5 negatives, okay, to think about. But now let's talk about, well, why are we even talking about it then, right? I'll tell you why. There are some positives. Now, the positives include, one, it is fun. Everybody kind of likes to do it, whether you do it well or not. That doesn't mean that's what you want to do, especially when you're sparring, okay? But okay, let's say you want to experiment with it and try to learn it. What are some advantages? Okay,